Hey everybody, it's Vladimir Blagojevic here and welcome back to the Fullfunnel B2B Marketing Show. And today's guest is Bastiaan Deblick, who is the co-founder and chief revenue officer at Tenforce. Bastiaan is a sales veteran of B2B enterprise sales. I think for many, many years, he lives and breathes enterprise sales and marketing. Bastiaan, welcome.
Thank you, Vladimir. Really happy to be on the show and really happy to share my experience and expertise. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Awesome. Let's dive in. So I know that you recently received funding. Congratulations. But I know it's also not a classical VC round, but kind of a partnership. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yes, of course. We had this nice opportunity coming from Elisa. Elisa is the leading telecom operator in Finland, and they set up this new company that's called Industriq. And Industriq is focused on providing software services, like software and services to industry. And they have this vision to deliver software to industry that is also enhanced by machine learning and AI in the long run, ultimately. Well, not in the very long run, but in the long run, ultimately. That was also a path, that is also a path that we are on. So there we have a shared vision. And the good thing is that indeed that we have a shared vision on the future, on where to go, what to provide to industry customers and prospects, the way to bring the message. There's also a nice cultural fit between us Belgians and Flemish Belgians and Finnish people. That's also really nice. So yeah, we have the shared vision to bring industry software to the industry. Yeah. That's also something that they want to do.
I recognize the shared mentality, as you say. I was telling that to my Finnish friends always, like, you know, I feel like I know you guys culturally because there is a lot of similarities, and totally get that. Now, so you basically got this like great opportunity. You can continue doing what you're doing. You get access to a bigger market, bigger budgets, you can grow your scale. So it's an amazing opportunity. And I remember that you mentioned as well that prior to that, you were basically getting almost monthly offers for either investment or acquisition. Is that correct?
Yes, indeed. At a certain moment, we had monthly offers from, let's say, basically two types of investors. One was let's say the venture capitalist type that were there with mainly money and some expertise on how to manage that money. And on the other side, we also had some competitors knocking at our door to see how we could collaborate. Now, when Elisa arrived, we were really charmed by this opportunity to do something good for all the stakeholders in and around the company, basically. Yeah. So they wanted to continue the product, which is not a given if you are talking to or working with a competitor, which is understandable. Of course, they have their own priorities and their own focus, and that does not necessarily involve your complete product, as we can see around us. And also for Elisa has been having in the last, I think it's 150 years, they really have a long-term strategy. So that's also not always the case. I will be very careful, but that's not always the case when you're talking to like venture capitalist investors. Yeah, they usually have a short-term focus that is mainly geared towards profit on a shorter term. Whereas, we have also some nice targets today, but the targets lead to something that goes beyond the short term, basically. Yeah. So that's really nice. And as I said, this kind of investment brings really something good for everybody around the table, including customers, also suppliers, employees of all kinds. They get, we can focus on stuff or on work that we haven't been focusing on in the last 3, 4, 5 years because we are also, as an SME, we're also sometimes a bit short-sighted. So they can work on some foundations or rebuilding some foundations of our software tool. They get most probably in the long run, there are also some career mobility opportunities for them. So there is something really for everybody. For the management also, we stay on board. We are still driving the team and the company, which is also not necessarily the case when you are acquired by a competitor, for instance. They typically will replace the management, or at least a part of the management.
Yeah.
That's in short why we really like this collaboration with Elisa and industry.
Perfect. And what made you so attractive that you were getting offers each month? What's your opinion?
What is our opinion? Well, at a certain moment, as a Belgian Flemish company, you surface above a certain threshold, and it is within our culture to work with large corporations. So as I said before, I cannot always mention all the names, but Ineos is a customer. Ineos is the third biggest chemical company in the world. And we have some other of the biggest chemical companies as a customer. And that requires a certain culture, a certain attitude, a certain way of working. And if you have this kind of organizations as a customer, you in the industry, you get the attention, you draw the attention. So that's definitely the case. The people and are talking about Tenforce on the one hand. On the other hand, we also did a small effort to make sure that we appeared in some analyst reports. Yeah. And most probably that helped also to get some attention. But then again, we also have to take some of the credits because we didn't spend huge amounts of time or money on working and talking to analysts. So, but that most probably also helps to get on the right agenda.
So a lot of it had to do with your customers, closing these like big chemical companies and large enterprise deals. So I wonder, in your opinion, again, I mean, you were leading sales and marketing of Tenforce throughout that time, closing those customers. So what do you think are kind of like key success factors when in landing enterprise deals?
I've been thinking about that before. What makes us unique? So we try to do the classic B2B sales approach also. So we do all the stuff. We try to have inbound leads, which is extremely difficult for an SME. We do our outbound work. We make our calls. We make proposals. We do our shows. We give our demos. We have a pipeline. We manage our pipeline. So that's really goes as it's supposed to go. I read also all the books about B2B software sales, but thinking about it, what really distinguishes Tenforce, I think, from our competitors definitely, and what really helped us to grow is customer intimacy. I would say is that we really try to get as close as possible to the customer and like dance together with them to develop something good. Yeah. In the early beginning, it was we a lot of times we went in and we said like, look, tell us your process, give us your process, give us your material, and we will make sure that we follow it, that your process is modeled in our software too. That's not always the best approach. It comes to haunt you in the long run. It can increase some of the governance costs. It makes the maintenance a bit more difficult. Whereas today we try to build the same customer intimacy, but we come with something pre-packaged, pre-cooked that the customer and Tenforce should start from. But for me, in one word, it's like customer intimacy. So you connect with them on LinkedIn, but you not only connect with them, you start a conversation. On the sales side, you give them regular calls, you listen, you try to understand their business, you go on site, you don't only do business over the phone or through Zoom or Teams. Yeah, that's and you really try to understand what are the processes that they are dealing with and what are the challenges they are dealing with.
Yeah.
That's
So on the one hand, I remember you also mentioned coming yourself from enterprise or from the corporate world, and your colleagues, you understand how corporations buy, what they need, and in other words, you understand the buying process. And on the other hand, you make sure that it's not a generic approach. It's not like pushing whether it's a product or prepared pitches or prepared messages or whatever to your accounts, but really understanding what they need and basically personalizing your approach to that.
Yeah, indeed, always. Yeah.
I like
so
that.
Indeed, yeah, it's hard. It's not always easy, but indeed, yeah, we have the knowledge and the culture, as I said before, the knowledge and the culture in the company to deal with these large corporations. You know, the buying process, the decision processes, and you have to be aware of that, and you have to also work it and make sure that it moves into your direction, or that also that you're involved in the right way. That's definitely the case. Yeah.
And if I look at B2B buying process, especially with large organizations, you will have multiple people involved in the decision making.
Yeah.
From the very start until the later stages when you're going into implementation, etc. Now, I wonder, like, do you approach different buyers in the different roles, for example, in a different way? Are you reaching out?
Yeah. Yes, yeah, and we do it really very consciously. We typically have 3 roles per company that we can address, and we found out and we learned that we can try and test them all one by one. So, and it does not necessarily mean if you try one and then you get a no, that the other one doesn't want to move forward. Yeah. So we typically address 3 roles in a company for us in our business, and we supply software for safety, health, and environmental management to industry. It's typically a safety manager or a quality manager. So somebody is responsible for safety and quality, and they have to make sure that quality and safety are respected and implemented and followed. And that's not always easy, working in an operational environment. On the one hand, on the other hand, we also target what we call the site manager or production manager. Those are the people responsible for the operations. And they also have an objective to make sure that work happens in an efficient way, but also in a safe way. And today, software is an important part of that strategy, next to training and safety culture. And then finally, if, for instance, these 2 are not super interested, we can also still go to the IT department and explain them, like, look, this is what we have to offer. We know that in companies like yours, operations and safety management use these kinds of software solutions. It might be interesting for you to present this to your colleagues. So it's typically what we do. And ultimately, in the buying process, even we are SaaS, or we can offer it as a SaaS solution. It can also be installed on site, but we offer it more and more as in the cloud. And even then, we need to align, or we have to make sure that these 3 parties are on board one way or the other somewhere in the buying process.
And so you're basically also proactively approaching the different buyers if you're after an account, not just waiting for them to appear on a meeting or something like that.
Well, there's sometimes some sales strategy behind it, indeed, and I will, yeah. It's part of the sales cookbook or the sales kitchen, yeah. But I can share these tips. Is that you do not typically want to address all 3 of them at the same time. It will not necessarily help you to make a nice deal. The rhythm and the frequency of involving them is important, and sometimes you need to make sure that's just the work of the sales manager. Sometimes you need to make sure that IT is on board as quick as possible. Sometimes it helps to wait a little bit and to raise the interest of your business partners at the customer or at the prospect. But that's also part of the sales, let's say, dancing and shaking.
Now, thinking about your specific buying process and your customers, I see two specific challenges that I'd really like to hear how you deal with. And the first one has to do with the buyers. And like you mentioned, like the quality or operations people, they're very operationally. I mean, they day in, day out, they need to make sure that the factory is running, the production is running at a, at a certain quality and things like that. But they're like maybe even on the floor, on the shop floor. They're not sitting in the office listening to webinars and thinking about these solutions, right? So I wonder, like, basically I have two questions. Like the first one is like, how do you get their attention when the situation is like that, and how do you engage them?
That's a nice question. And also in manufacturing and chemical manufacturing and processing, it's terrible. So they are they're in, well, not necessarily the managers, but the factory or the site operates in shifts. So in 24-hour shifts, seven days per week. So they have this amazing rhythm of working, and they're all very operational, very occupied, very busy. And there are some things that, and we did not find the magic formula yet. It's always trying and looking for different angles and looking for different entries. It's really hard, because indeed these people are not always digitally online, and they're not always connected, and they don't always have the time to talk. What we do is, like, on different levels. On a very operational level, you have to make sure that you call them before a shift starts, for instance, because typically at the start of a shift, everybody's involved and engaged. So you have to call them before a certain time, like 7:30 in the morning, before 8 o'clock in the morning. It depends a little bit. Or you have to try to reach them when they're in their car driving home. Yeah, there are also some things that you can tell them and ask them. And another thing through which we try to draw their attention is by, these people are, of course, like most of us, but okay, they are very dedicated and committed professionals. And you try to gain their interest through content, through providing them tips and tricks and insights, and from yourself, from experts, from their peers. Yeah. And another thing that we found out that really works is, like, all of them are in a very high speed, high pressure, competitive environment. And they really, and in a niche environment, yeah, and they really enjoy talking to their peers from other companies or in the industry. Whereas I'm a software guy, I get a lot of information from the internet, but they really like to engage and exchange knowledge and expertise with their peers. And so you typically try to support that or activate that by either setting up an event, either also, again, making content or publications where people share insights and expertise from the industry, and then you can share these pieces of content with your prospects and your customers. Those are some of the, I think, the main techniques that we use today. So ranging from more strategic to very operational. But you need to do all of them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I imagine, I don't know how many accounts you have per salesperson, but I imagine you're not going after hundreds or thousands of accounts month after month.
No, yeah. I always call it whale hunting, yeah. Like in an artisanal way. So we go with our spear. Well, we try to use digital tools, but it's like really one-on-one, the sales with the whale, and there's a season also. There's some seasonality. Near the end of the year, it's more busy than in the middle of the year, and it's really one-on-one. And okay, we set up everything to make sure that the sales manager and the reps that do the outbound work can work as efficiently as possible, but at a certain moment, it's always one-on-one, and it's the sales person that is in front of the audience and that has to make it happen.
So it's one-on-one, and with, I can imagine with big accounts like that, but also in manufacturing, where these manufacturing processes are so complex and actually so different, maybe in different stages, suffering from different challenges depending on the different companies that you're reaching out to. I wonder, because you mentioned content, you mentioned stories, how you can engage the customers. And by the way, I really liked a lot the idea of engaging and enabling them to learn from their peers. We do that all the time. I think it's like such an underutilized approach, and I think it works in any market, and especially niche markets like you mentioned. But coming back to the other approach, like with content that you create for that account or for a vertical, I wonder, because I'm sure that if you look across your different customers and how they started their engagement, there were all these different use cases, different problems to solve for them. So I wonder, like, how do you know what stories to tell to prospective buyers so that they're relevant to their specific situation?
Yeah, it's also very specific to B2B, and I think a lot of companies do it, and we also do it. So there's the human artisanal part, and there's the content that you prepare. So we typically, and I also see that other companies, you typically prepare content, blogs, brochures, whatever, the website. Yeah. And then what the sales typically does, you spin it, you give it a final spin, you give it a little spin before you deliver it to your prospect or to your customer. So you write like a 1-paragraph introduction in your email. You introduce it with a little phone call, you introduce it with a little LinkedIn message, and you try to make a little bridge between the content that we also try to make as generic as possible, of course, because otherwise we have to create content per account. And you try to bridge that little gap that there still is. As a salesperson, you have to do it. You have to say it. You have to do it in your presentation. That's what the salesperson does. They bridge this little gap from between the standard presentation and the situation of the customer. You bridge the gap with a little introduction in your email between the study and the situation of the customer. And it's quite amazing what you can do, because a lot of times the patterns are the same, but the semantics are different in the head of the prospects. And you can give them whatever if you introduce it with, look, this is this, and this is A, and this is B, and this is C, and you make a little translation, and then all of a sudden they see the value of your publication, of your content. That's so far the only way I found out to make this customization ad hoc customization for different customers and prospects. Yeah.
So again, it comes back to your intimacy that you spoke about.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, you have to
really understanding, doing the research, talking to them, really understanding where they are, or challenges, even like what kind of language they use, etc. And then using these insights to personalize even the content that you're sharing, personalize it so they can really understand how that relates to their situation. And I love this approach. I think it's something that a lot of B2B companies can benefit from. So
also it starts with the reps also. Sorry to interrupt you, because it's interesting. It starts with the reps. So the people that doing the sending out the emails, following up with calls, we teach them a method to quickly check, okay, what is the information available in a standard way in HubSpot that pulls already in some information about an account? What do you have to look for on the website? Yeah, and what can you see on LinkedIn about a specific person? We really try to we teach them how to process this information, and then decide what is my little angle that I will take when I call this person or when I email this person. What is the highest chance that I would get that I make a connection to the brain on the other side? So yeah, that's super important.
Yeah, no, totally. So basically doing your research, both on the level of the account and on the level of the individual buyer, individual person you're reaching out to. No, makes perfect sense. So I wonder, like, one of the things I am sure that helps there is your focus. You're focused very much. I know that, you know, traditionally you worked with 3 niches: manufacturing, government, and utilities, and now more and more focusing on the industry. I'm sure that a lot of that intimacy and understanding comes from that focus as well. And I know that on the other hand, I know a lot of tech companies who are really struggling to narrow their focus and maybe not even understand why they should, because they say, to me at least, look, our technology is industry agnostic. We can apply it to any use case, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I wonder, what would you say to those people who are thinking like that?
It's extremely difficult. And honestly speaking, as a co-founder, the person that had the biggest impact on this focus is basically not one of the co-founders. It's really somebody that has been working in this company, and it's our current CEO, that's Jan. And you need, as a co-founder and an entrepreneur, you typically see a lot of possibilities and opportunities, and it's really hard to exclude something. We are a bit paralyzed by all the different options and all the different possibilities, and I'm speaking from experience. And it really helps if somebody and that's also the difficult thing. But for me, what really helped Tenforce is that it's somebody from the inside also, yeah, that really understands what you're doing and what you're good at, but also has some degree, and I don't know how to define the level of distance, but has some distance. I can take some distance from what is actually going on and look at the bigger picture of the market, the vision, and involve look at the market. See some kind of vision or make the vision more refined, more detailed, and then decide, okay, this is the way to go, based on also some assumptions and some ideas on revenue that will come and where the highest added value is. And that's really hard. But what made the biggest difference for Tenforce is that somebody from the inside develop that vision, and together with among others, myself and some of the other people in the company. So that is what worked for us.
So I think you're the perfect person then to advise, because you totally understand how difficult it is. There was a lot of resistance, I'm sure. I mean, there always is.
But it hurts. It physically hurts when you you have to exclude something.
Looking at it from this perspective, you know, after the decision has been made and implemented and been working for a while like that, what do you believe are the main advantages of such a more narrow industry focus?
Well, it's textbook material. I think it allows you to explain your vision to all the stakeholders, your customers, your employees, the people from Elisa. It allows you to explain your vision in a more focused way. It's always better. It removes friction from the interaction, and that's on the one hand. And on the other hand, operationally, it simplifies your price list. It simplifies your implementation. It simplifies the maintenance and the design of your website. So there are a lot of operational advantages that come with it. It simplifies setting priorities on a daily basis, like, should we have this meeting, yes or no? So yeah, it brings huge advantages on all levels.
And do you feel it's also making you stand out more to those type of customers that you're focused on? Like, compared to a generic solution, you can say, we know the industry, we are focused, all the case studies, everything is from the exact same kind of companies that you're talking to, right? Or
that's not so clear and black and white, because honestly, it's as there is a tendency in any market, I think, or any software market, for a tool to become more of a platform. Yeah. So, and it's also something that we feel. There's a constant push or also request from the market and from the customers and the prospects And in our case, it's then about modules. Do you have a module for this, or do you have a module for that? And the module is then an area in whatever has to do with safety and quality and environmental and health. And there's definitely that push to go broader and to add not features, but to add, like, to make your platform or your offering broader. Yeah, that's also difficult. And then you have to, again, make the same kind of calculations as you made when you focus on a certain market, like manufacturing, government, and utilities with a specific story. So it really helps to have a focused story, yes, and it's mainly easy then for everybody that's involved in your company, the sales, the marketing, the reps, and also the project managers, and the consultants that work with the customers, to formulate that vision in a crystal clear way. That helps, but it's at the same time there are forces that push you to make your offering broader, and yeah, it's a constant friction, I guess. There's a continuous conflict there, but okay, it makes it also interesting.
Awesome. So I was thinking, I mean, I have so much more that I wanted to discuss, but I think we have to also respect the time. And I was thinking about the best way to wrap it up. And I know that with the new investments, there are new ambitions, there are new goals. So I wonder now, with the growth that is ahead of you, with growing your team, scaling your team, what's your vision to be able to do that scale while still keeping your secret weapon, your differentiation, which is this more intimate approach, one-on-one with the target accounts?
Yes, indeed. It's a challenge, I think. But on the other hand, I'm also convinced that we can solve it, or we can get somewhere that works. And the idea today is that, and okay, it's only a couple of weeks that we got used to we were involved in the negotiations, but okay, it's only a couple of weeks now that we have the investment. But the idea today is that we should automate and digitalize as much as possible the material that the people that are outbound, like sales again, and the reps and marketing, we should automate and streamline as much as possible the content that they need in order to engage with customers and prospects. And so ranging from videos to brochures to blogs, whatever. That's definitely the case. And also even to create scenarios and script the interactions as much as possible, even for a relatively small team, because it is complex. Yeah. And so we will create checklists, we will create scripts to engage with our types of sophisticated customers on the one hand, and on the other hand, I believe the most important element in this is in hiring the right people that can listen, that have the empathy, that are also in our context are obsessed by customer satisfaction, but also the complexity and the processes that are ongoing at the customer. They have to be able to discuss and to engage around processes and what's happening on the customer side and how things move around on the at the customer side. I think these three elements, so it's people that are nice and empathic, making sure that we provide all the material in a digital way and script and automate as much as possible, and then making sure that we hire the right people. That's really very important.
So implementing a sales enablement program that is not Bastiaan.
Yes, indeed. To a certain level, I'm the sales enablement, as I mentioned before. Well, to a large extent, it's not only me, but I do a lot of the sales enablement today. And we will have to put that in processes and in systems, and then make sure that it's also in our colleagues' minds and that they have the right attitude. But yeah, I'm quite sure that can be done.
I'm sure as well. Thank you very much, Bastiaan. This was really learned so much, I think, during this conversation. And I just wanted to ask you just to let us know if people want to connect to you, if our listeners want to learn more about you, what is the best place to find you?
That's Bastiaan, Bastiaan @tenforce.com.
Okay.
I will reply to every email.
Love it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vladimir. It was really nice talking about these things, and it was also enlightening for myself. Thank you very much.
I like it.